And welcome to Tuesdays with the Disability Foundation and ConnecTra Society. And we're here again in a beautiful summer's day. It's July and we're going to talk about fats today. Fats is very important, and I'm going to tell you why in a few minutes. I also will be doing a cooking demo with you guys after my short presentation, and I hope you guys can try out some of the recipes I am sharing today. So welcome again. I'm Renee, and I am a registered dietitian in Vancouver, BC, and I'm so happy that I can share about an hour with you every week to do nutrition talks and cooking demos. I love cooking. I have a company here in BC called True Nosh. Please feel free to visit the website and visit me in local farmers markets and come say hi. So I'm going to start by reviewing some facts on fat. As I said, I am a registered dietitian. I have a master's in clinical nutrition, and I practiced in long-term hair combs and as well as acute care facilities and also cancer hospitals and cardiac rehab. I really specialize and I want to focus on diabetes prevention and heart disease prevention because those are really close to me. My father passed away from diabetes about 10 years ago. My mother has hypertension, and I just don't want that to happen to any of you watching at home and any of my loved ones. So visit my website, truenosh.com. There are plenty of recipes on there. There's plenty of blogs and information about current nutrition trends and topics that are currently researched upon. Okay, so let's start. Why we're talking about fats? Well, it is very important because it is a macronutrient in our body. Last week, we talked about proteins and how it's important to increase your lean body mass and decrease your fracture risk and osteoporosis risk, as well as your overall health, and also helps you recover from injury. But today, fats, which we're going to talk about, is an essential ingredients. It's found through the body. Some we can make ourselves, some that are essential. Anything that is labeled essential means that we cannot make it ourselves, and we have to ingest it through the foods we eat. It also makes up all our cells. So our cells are little globules, and they're an encasing of phospholipids, and the phospholipids are essentially fatty acids. Without it, we can't survive because we don't have a body. We need fats for energy, and we need fats to absorb vitamins, and we need them to protect our heart and also help us with our thinking and our brain health. So there's a few types of fats. This is a long slide, I know. We're going to spend a few minutes on this. Don't really concentrate on this, but a lot of people have questions asking me what is saturated fat, unsaturated fat, trans fat. They're all in your nutritional label. So we have a session in our previous weeks talking about labeling and ingredients and nutrition information. Review that week of slides, and that will tell you how to really look at a nutritional facts table in all the products that you buy in the grocery store. So there are a few types of fats, and all foods contain all types of fat almost, right? So it's not really just a specific type of fat that is in one food, but it is categorized, and it is categorized in the back of your nutritional facts table. We're going to go through it. Unsaturated fat, it is the sort of the good type of fat, and what you can look at when you're buying fats like oils, cooking oils. All of the unsaturated fat is liquid at room temperature. So if you look at the aisle of oils and butters and margarines and all that, unsaturated fat is usually liquid at room temperature. And it actually has a lot of health benefits. It improves blood cholesterol, decreases inflammation, stabilizes the heart rhythm, and it mainly is derived from plant foods such as vegetable oils, nuts, and seeds. But there are two forms of unsaturated fat. One is monounsaturated, we'll talk about that in the next slide, and one is polyunsaturated. So if you think about it, mono, it means one. That means there's one double bond in the chemical structure of the fatty acids. And poly means multiple, so there are multiple double bonds in that fatty acid. Saturated fat, mostly found in animal foods, but also some plants have saturated fats such as coconut, avocado, coconut oil, and palm or kernel oil also has saturated fats that are considered a plant food. Trans fat, another form of fat labeled in your nutritional facts table, is naturally occurring actually, but you can also make it synthetically in a lab. And this is done by heating up vegetable oils. So usually unsaturated oils are heated up and hydrogen gas is blasted in the oil while it's being heated. So this process is called hydrogenation. So in the ingredients, when you look at the back of the package, you'll see hydrogenated oils. And that's what it means. It's a process that you create solid oil. So margarines and shortening are created by a vegetable oil. And when it's hydrogenated, it becomes solid form in room temperature. Why we do this? Because it's more stable and less likely for the oil to become rancid. So it increases shelf life and it doesn't turn bad as quickly. But it is one of the worst oils and fats to ingest because it increases cholesterol and increases the risk of heart disease. And it causes insulin resistance, therefore it can lead to diabetes and then stroke, and also causes inflammation in your body. We had a session on inflammation and I urge you to review those slides and that session in a previous video that we recorded. And that has a lot of information on how to adapt an anti-inflammatory diet. There are good fats versus bad fats. So there are, in the previous slides, we said that there's two types of unsaturated fats. Monounsaturated fats are found in olives, olive oil, peanut oil, canola oils. They're also found in avocados. And then also nuts, almonds, hazelnuts, pecans are full of monounsaturated fats, as well as seeds such as pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds. And then we have the second polyunsaturated fats, which have more than two double bonds in the fatty acid chain. And these are linked with lowering your heart disease risk. They're found in sunflower oil, corn oil, soybean oil, flaxseed oils. Walnuts and flax seeds are full of polyunsaturated fats, and also fatty fish like salmon. And a lot of people hear polyunsaturated fats related to omega-3 because it essentially is the same thing. And omega-3 fatty acids is a polyunsaturated fats, meaning there's more than one double bond. And the body can't omega 3s, so you must eat them in your food or as a supplement. And polyunsaturated fats should be about 8 to 10% of your calories that you ingest in a day. And another form of fat, which is saturated fats, is not so good for your body, but we also need it. But it's recommended to have you to eat about or less than 10% of your calories per day. So it should be way less than polyunsaturated fat. These are sources in our normal day diets, so in cheeses and pizzas and in whole and reduced fat milk butters and some dairy desserts. Meat products such as sausage, bacon, beef, and hamburgers, they're mostly higher in saturated fats. And then cookies and other grain-based desserts because you use butter or shortening to make these desserts. And then a variety of mixed fast food dishes that are high in saturated fats. So fats related to your health. Well, we need fats because we need to absorb some vitamins. A, D, E, and K. Those are fat-soluble vitamins, meaning without fat, you can't store it in your body and you can't absorb it. So that's important. And we did talk about vitamin D in a very, very beginning session. Go ahead and review that. And we need fat to absorb vitamin A, D, E, and K. Unsaturated fats also reduce major cardiovascular events. So events such as heart attacks and high blood pressure. And also these are related, and these are important because people with diabetes and other health factors have an increased risk of having a heart attack and also being hypertensive as well. Polyunsaturated fats, as we talked about, like the omega-3s and 6s, are associated with a lower risk of premature deaths in older adults. So eating more polyunsaturated fats is important. And what fats do when you eat it with carbs, so fats is a macronutrition that takes a little bit longer for you to digest and absorb. And when you're mixing it with some simple carbs like starches like bread or potatoes or noodles, that actually slows down your carb digestion and absorption as well, therefore decreasing your sugar absorption, and then you don't get that spike in blood sugar when you eat carbs mixed with fat. So when you're eating a bagel, make sure you put on a little bit of olive oil or butter or peanut butter, and that will actually help you absorb and digest that bagel a little bit slower. Omega-3s versus omega-6s versus omega-9s. So omega just means that there is a double bond in your fatty acid chain, and the number where the last double bond occurs is how we name our omega fatty acids. So the reality is people don't eat enough unsaturated fats. Therefore, we look to supplementation, and a lot of forms of supplementations are in omega-3 fatty acids like fish oil or flaxseed oil. And that really is because we don't have enough in our diet. So we need that in order to help you decrease your risk of heart disease. There's many, many good benefits for ingesting omega-3 fatty acids. We said earlier, fishes and nuts and seeds and different types of flaxseed oils, those are also good in omega-3s. It's an essential fatty acid, which means our body doesn't make it and we need to ingest it in our food. What is omega-6s? Well, that really means that of all the double bonds in that fatty acid chain, the last one occurs at the number 6 carbon, and therefore it's named omega-6. But we don't really need and see that in supplements because we eat enough of that in our food. It's recommended for omega-6 versus omega-3s is 4-to-1 ratio. But in reality, in our food, we have about 10 times amount of that. So we actually don't really need to supplement omega-6s. And I mean, there's studies being done saying that even 50 times amount of omega-6 versus omega-3s are present in our diet. So we really don't need it in our supplements. Okay, and it is again an essential polyunsaturated fat, and it's known to help decrease chronic diseases. And another omega fatty acid is your omega-9s. Again, in review of all the double chains, your last omega carbon is the number 9 carbon in that long chain of fatty acids, and that's why it's named omega-9. And it is a monounsaturated fat, meaning there's only one double bond in that chain of fatty acids. It's not really essential because our body has a tendency of making that, and if you ingest omega-9s, it's shown to be good for your metabolic health. Okay? So how much fat do we need? Well, it is needed for your energy source, and it also is stored in our body for later on when we need more energy. So each gram of fat, when burned or metabolized, is released in our body equaling about 9 calories. So when you look at the back package, about 1 gram of fat means that there are 9 calories, and that will make up your calorie count for your labeling. I usually don't really focus on the number of calories. It's more about your overall diet and how many percentage of fat you are allocating to your overall diet. It is recommended for adults. You adapt about 20 to 35% of your total calories from fat. What does that mean for someone who's ingesting about 2,000 calories in a day? And that's just an example. If you're smaller in build and height, you need less calories. And if you're taller and you have more muscle, which means you burn more calories in a day, you'll need more. But this is just a ballpark number that you can follow. It's about 44 to 77 grams in a day, and that equates to 20 to 35% of your total calories. And with that said, less than 10% should be your saturated fat amount, and 8 to 10% of your overall calories should be your polyunsaturated fat intake. Your fat goals, so daily fat goals for a 2,000 calorie sort of a ballpark estimation, as I said in the previous slide, should be about 44 to 77 grams. Well, what does that mean? And I've listed some examples of foods that we eat in everyday life. So if you're about half a cup of avocados in a snack or in your salad, that equates to about 10 grams of fat. If you are hard boiling 1 egg, that's about 5 grams of fat. A 4-ounce piece of fish, meaning about the size of your inner palm, that's usually 1 serving of fish, and that's about 12 grams of fat, but that's good fat, right? And then now we're going to go into some types of meat. So a chicken breast, 1 chicken breast has about 5 grams of fat. A thigh with no skin is about 10 grams of fat. And then if you're choosing to eat the skin, it only adds about 1 to 2 grams of fat. But that also means that there's not a lot of fat under the skin too. So when you're cooking that meat, make sure you kind of just cut away some of that extra fat. Because that is higher in saturated fats, right? And then beef. So 1 ground beef patty, which is about your size of your hamburger patty. And you really need to kind of look at how many percentage of lean fat there are. And this is about 85% lean meat, and it is about 12 grams of fat in that ground beef patty. 1 tablespoon of butter has about 12 grams of fat, because it has some milk solids in there, so it's not all 100% fat. And then 1 tablespoon of olive oil or even vegetable oil, it is all fat, and that's about 14 grams of fat. So those are some numbers that you want to be mindful of when you're using to make salad dressing or cooking. And you know, this is just kind of like a ballpark number that you can be in your head when you are measuring your portion sizes, when you go and buy food, or when you're cooking at home. And another important fact and important message here is maintaining health is just more than 1 pill or 1 food or 1 exercise. Having an overall balanced diet and exercise and being mindful of what you're eating is really the important thing that you should consider in your everyday life. So some fat research here I want to share with you. And, you know, it's kind of important to know some of these facts or look current research that some medical institutes and universities are studying. Premenopausal women, so a lot of people are adapting to a plant-based diet, and they've done studies with, you know, women eating more animal fat versus women eating vegetable fat. And diets high in animal fat have an increased chance, a 44% higher chance of getting breast cancer, though, versus those women eating less animal fat, meaning, you know, you should try to decrease your red meat intake And also because meats have some sort of hormones that should be factored in that, so causes some sort of cancers that are hormone sensitive, right? And then colon cancer risk. So there is evidence saying that red meat, beef, pork, and lamb, and also processed meat increases colon cancer risk. And you really want to limit your red meat to be less than 2 times a week and really avoid processed meat, meaning sausages and deli meats and hams. Those have preservatives in there and additives in there, and also high amounts of sodium. Fats and cholesterol. So we had a cholesterol session a few weeks back, and we talked about different types of cholesterol, LDL versus HDL. And they can't really dissolve in water or in your blood, so therefore they have to be packaged in a form of lipid proteins, and some are fluffier and bigger and hard to flow through the blood. These are called your low density lipoprotein, LDL, and you want to really minimize that in your blood. HDL, which are smaller and denser, they're called high density lipoproteins, and they can flow through the blood a little bit easier, and you actually want to concentrate on increasing that in your blood. And we also have triglycerides, and that's the type of fat that's converted your food into your fat cells, and that's stored to be used when you need energy. Scientific studies actually don't really show a large relationship between amount of cholesterol ingested and their blood cholesterols. It is actually important, again, to avoid your processed sugar, processed food, focus on a balanced diet, increasing your lean proteins, your more fiber, which are vegetables, fruits, and your whole grains and legumes, and your healthy fats, which are your omega-3s, and in animal products, which are your fishes, right? Muscle versus fat mass. We talked about this last week. Your lean body mass is all your muscle mass and your bones minus your fat mass. And we have a slide here, which is a reiteration of what is important to increase your lean body mass. And why is because muscles promote insulin sensitivity. So they have glycogen stores, and it helps you fuel your body when you move, and it allows you to use your carbs as calories. And then it increases insulin sensitivity, therefore it protects against diseases like diabetes, and your body can utilize carbs versus your muscles. So it protects you against metabolic diseases and diabetes. So increasing your muscle mass versus fat mass is important. And also makes your body look more tight and more thin, so you don't have to carry so much body mass around with you, so you can be happier and healthier and not carrying so much body mass, right? And then muscles also protect against obesity. We talked about this last week. Diabetes is the inability to use your carbs productively. And then obesity results in your body storing carbs as fat instead of using it effectively. So both are caused by inflammation, and also your imbalances in your gut flora, and also connected with autoimmunity diseases, okay? And muscle wasting, so meaning not enough protein and not enough muscle mass, is associated with obesity. And there's these two problems cause a cycle, and they're completely kind of one causes the other causes the other. So it's more like a vicious cycle that you want to avoid by increasing your physical activity. So try to walk around your office or your home. When you're sitting too long, that is a sedentary lifestyle, and poor diet increases the rate of muscle mass loss. And therefore, if you lose muscle mass, you can increase your fat mass. And it doesn't really matter what age you're in. Again, my message here is choosing your health, and these are the steps that I reiterate every week with you. Lower stress levels, decrease your low caffeine intake in the evening when you're preparing to go to bed. Try to find a place where you can just calm down, do some breathing exercises, maybe some yoga and meditation, and hang out with some friends, you know, have a good laugh or watch some comedy. Get enough sleep. So 7 to 8 hours, very important. It helps your mind recover. It helps you rebuild your muscles, and it actually helps your hormones get released, and it really makes you feel refreshed when you wake up. Eat slowly, okay? Chewing longer helps you get full faster, which is kind of weird. But if you chew quickly and swallow quickly, your body doesn't have time to tell your brain that you've been eating. So you tend to eat more than you need. And it helps absorb your nutrients also. And stay hydrated. So drinking water, things that are not sugary, can help you stay hydrated, and actually helps your mucosal lining of your intestines and help promote good bacteria. And then being mindful. So ask yourself, are you actually hungry? Are you just emotional eating, or you're just bored, right? Read your labels. We talked about this many a times, and we also talked about that today. And cook more at home. So which is why we're doing a lot of cooking demos in my sessions. I want to try to help you find some ways of cooking at home using different ingredients and just having fun in your kitchen. This is another important message, just not to focus on one nutrient. And labeling is important, reading the back and all the nutrition information and all the ingredients. Something that is labeled low fat in the front doesn't mean that it doesn't have all those refined carbs and calories and sugar and sodium. So be careful with labels. And another thing that you can take is ask questions, right? Call 811, go to the HealthLink BC website. There are a lot of information in there. Prevention is key. You don't want to end up, you know, with high blood pressure or uncontrolled blood sugar before you ask for help, okay? And another way to ask for help is to find a dietitian. BC Dietitians is there to help you, bcdietitians.ca, very helpful. A site to go be at, and also in emailing me, info@truenosh.com. Okay, so we are done with our slides today, and we're gonna go back to my kitchen. Are there any questions, Nina, with Facebook or the live Zoom here that I need to answer? No, I don't think so. Okay, so let's have some fun in the kitchen. So today we're going to talk about 3 fun and quick recipes, and I am very excited to share with you a smoked salmon recipe that I do a lot in my home, and you don't need too much time. So you just need a piece of fish. It doesn't have to be salmon, it could be cod, it could be your halibut fillet. Something like this is about 4 ounces, okay? And salmon is very high in your omega-3 fatty acids. And what we're gonna do with the smoking is super easy, okay? So you get a big pot and just enough room to fit your whole piece of foil in there. And your foil is important because you will protect your pot from anything burning, okay? And what you want to do is put the pot on. If you have a rack like this, or you can use a cookie cutter, you can put it inside on top of your piece of foil. And then now you want to go and take a look at what spices you have in your kitchen. And what I have is actually some mixed spices, and this is pickling spice, and you can find pickling spice in most spice aisles in your grocery store, and it's comprised of black pepper, allspice, cumin, coriander seeds, mustard seeds, some cinnamon, and bay leaves. If you don't have pickling spice, you can go ahead and just find some dry thyme or dried coriander seeds, and even just salt and pepper is fine. Or you can actually use tea leaves. Tea leaves are really great to use for smoking. And you don't have to smoke fish. You can smoke tofu, you can smoke tempeh, you can even smoke boiled eggs, which are really fun to do also. Okay, so I'll about a tablespoon of pickling spice goes on my foil, okay? And this is the only class or only time that I will use sugar, but it's not for cooking. We're actually not going to eat this, so that's why it takes me like a few years to finish a sugar packet. Is I use it to smoke my fish. So I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon to the bottom of the pot, and we're only using this for the smoking effect. And now we're going to turn on our heat. Okay, so turn it on to medium, and slowly you'll see that the sugar will start steaming. So, or start fuming. Okay, so this is what it looks like on the bottom of my pans. You see the spices and the sugar. And then once you see the sugar starting to fume and burn, you want to make sure that you have a cover to cover your pot when it starts steaming. And then I have a piece of salmon here that I've actually put on a plate with a little bit of foil to protect my plate from the smoke, because it does cause some sort of staining. You can easily wash it off, but you can just throw away that piece of foil when you are done. So I'm going to wait for the spices to fill up my kitchen. You do want to turn on your hood to about medium setting, and the smoking will take less than 10 minutes after the sugar has started fuming. Okay, I'm just going to turn it down, okay, to a low setting. So that's it. And you want to put a little bit of salt and pepper on it right before you start putting it on the pot. So I hear the spices crackling, and I know the pan is hot. So now I'm going to start by putting some pepper. You don't have to put salt if you are trying to lower your salt intake. So what I have is some garlic powder. So I'm just going to slightly drizzle some garlic powder on here. And then if you want to add a little bit of either olive oil or sesame oil, you can, but fatty fish is already quite good, high source of omega-3s, and you don't need to do that. It's just for flavor. So I see that the sugar is fuming, and I'm going to bring you a little bit closer. Do you guys see that? Okay, and that's when it's ready to add the fish. So I'm just going to add the fish on the rack, and then you're going to cover this guy up, and then you're just going to put the clock on for about 8 minutes, okay? So 8 minutes, your fish should be done and ready to eat, and will give you a really nice flavor. So now we're gonna do a dipping sauce for some of your snacks if you want. So we have some celery here that we're gonna use for our dips that we're gonna eat. And we're going to use the sauce for our fish too. But usually the fish is flavorful enough and you don't need the extra sauce. But the sauce is also good for increasing some protein and fiber because we're using some nuts and seeds today. So we have a tahini. We have some curry powder here, and then we also have some chestnuts. And a lot of people don't really know what to do with chestnuts, and I'm going to show you a really quick dipping sauce because I know a lot of people are allergic to nuts, so you would want to stay away from almond butter or peanut butter. But chestnuts are also a tree nut, so if you're allergic to peanut butter, you might not be allergic to chestnuts, but if you're allergic to almonds, then you might be allergic to chestnuts. But these are a lot bigger, and you don't actually need to use too much of it, and it's quite flavorful. So this is an alternative to peanuts, and also I'll use a little bit of tahini because those are also higher in monosaturated fats. Okay, so you can just buy chestnuts roasted and they're already de-shelled, but I bought these that have the shell intact, but they're already roasted and they come out super easily. So I only really need about 3 or 4 chestnuts to make this sauce. I can smell the smoked salmon in my pot, so super awesome. Okay, so I have some chestnuts here. I cut my celery for my side dish or as a snack for the dipping sauce. And if you have kids, you can use this to make the little ants climbing up the tree kind of snack, right? And bring it to them instead of giving them peanut butter. Okay. So I'm going to get a plate really quickly for my celery. Celery is great because it's actually about 95% water, and there's a lot of fiber in here. So you want to keep the fiber intact, and it's also a great snack. It's very satiating. You don't need a lot. So for the sauce, I'm just going to cut up some chestnuts, okay? Rough chop is fine. Okay. Great. So I'm going to turn on a pot over here with a little bit of okay. So I don't need to really put any oil in my pan for the chestnuts. I'm technically roasting them again, and once I smell a nice aroma from the chestnuts, I'm going to add in a little bit of water, and then a little bit of tahini and a little bit of curry powder. You don't really need anything extra. So I'm going to get some water. You only really need to add a half cup of water to this, and then 2 tablespoons of tahini and a little bit of curry paste. And this is good for chicken, good on meat, good on fish as we have today, and even good on tofu. So this is a really good multifaceted dipping sauce over any protein, or sauce even over some vegetables. And you don't need any salt because we got the curry powder, and that's actually a very nice flavor for a lot of proteins and vegetables that you're making at home. So another snack that we can do is making a really easy dip or guacamole at home. So I make a hot sauce line. This is my first base with jalapeno and cilantro, and I added a little bit to a bag. And what you can do is open an avocado. So just cut it in half. Okay, half an avocado is about a a little bit more than a quarter cup. So this is about 1/3 cup of avocado. And we said that before in our slides, a 1/2 cup of avocado. Does anybody remember how many grams of fat there are? I think there's about 10 in that. So I'm gonna put a little bit of avocado in the bag. And then it's picnic season, right? So you don't have to worry about bringing any bowls to the park. You just need to bring a Ziploc bag when you're making a dip. You can also add onions and tomatoes to this. And what you just do when you get to the park, add, just mush it up and it's ready to be used as a dip when you're, serving it up with some whole wheat crackers. So my bell just rang. I'm going to turn that off. And then I'm going to turn this fan very high. Okay. And then I'm going to open my smoke. Woo. And we have our nice smoked fish. Hello. That only took less than 10 minutes, right? Very, very, very nice flavor. Okay, so a little bit of the fan will kind of draw all the smoke up and your house would not burn down, trust me, if you keep an eye on here. Okay. So now we also have the sauce on hand. I'm going to put this here so it's easier for me to control the sauce. I'm going to turn that on high. Or, well, this is a small burner, so I'm going to add some water now to the chestnuts. You can see here, I'm going to bring you a little bit closer to my pan. And then to this pan, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of tahini, which is a sesame butter. Okay, just going to stir that up. And then a little bit of curry powder. Curry powder has a lot of ingredients in there, but it's yellow and there's actually quite a lot of turmeric in there. So I'm gonna add a little bit, like about a teaspoon of that in there, and then I'm gonna turn the heat. And it becomes a thick paste, and we can finish it, the salmon, by ladling a little bit of sauce on top of the salmon, and then also use this as a dipping sauce for our cilantro, like that. And then on the other side, we have a little bit of guacamole that we made with your favorite hot sauce, and that will also pair really well with your celery. Okay. And that is all I have for you guys today.